I think we are live. I lost it. Yep. And we are live. Hello, everyone. No one's here yet, but hopefully they come. I'm here with 40 Ounce, Coffee with Comment, and the Mad Libertarian, and we are going to be discussing the future of the Libertarian Party. Now, I will let these guys kind of discuss their own thoughts, but basically, 40 Ounce believes that the Libertarian Party is dying. Coffee believes that the Libertarian Party is pretty much, it's dying, but it's pretty much dead because they can't come back. And Maddodge, I have no idea what the hell you believe. So I guess we'll just start with, I don't know, 40, you want to start it off? Just take a minute or two.
Yeah, so I think it was about a week ago, I had posted a video, is the Libertarian Party dying, or the Libertarian Party is dying, something akin to this. And so it was just kind of shitposty in nature. I had just got done reading a book, and some of the things that I was reading in this book sounded eerily similar to what was actually happening to the Libertarian Party. And I was just kind of thinking of the Libertarian Party at that time, kind of the state of it. And so I think maybe to a degree I saw what I wanted to in this book. But I tried to actually apply the principles from this book to what I identified as specific problems within the Libertarian Party. And that's essentially what the video was about. And so here we are.
All right. How about Coffee?
Yeah. Hey, so I took 40's idea and I thought it could go a little bit further, because from what I see from the Libertarian Party, there's not a lot of, there's just like the Democratic Party, there's nothing good coming out of it. They're all stuck on these, highfalutin ideas about BS and gender identity politics and all this stuff. And 40 Ounce had demonstrated that this has crept into the Libertarian Party. And so my suggestion was that all of the Reformation attitude among people who might consider themselves libertarian has actually moved into the alt-right/alt-right. And that anything that's left in the Libertarian Party is essentially Democrat, and they're going to have to worry about abandoning the Libertarian Party, and I'll get to that in a second, because they need to reform the Democratic Party, since they most closely, the idea of the Democratic Party anyway, most closely aligns with the ideals of the people left in the party. So basically, there's nowhere for people who consider themselves libertarians to gain political power or work within some kind of party structure under the Libertarian moniker. They're going to have to reform the Democratic Party or the Republican Party.
All right, Maddodge.
Yeah, my contention would be that the Libertarian Party is splitting, and you could already see the cracks in that when you looked at the convention. That nobody wanted Weld in there.
Yeah.
Nobody. And they fought over it and were at each other's throats. That's why I kind of like that debate at the convention much better than the Republican debates. But anyway, I think there was always a split because there's what we call the big L party, the National Libertarian Party. And then you have all these libertarians that don't necessarily donate to the big party, but they sometimes vote that way. They're more issue voters, So if they agree with a Democrat about something, they'll vote with the Democrats, drug laws, stuff like that. When it comes to fiscal matters, they'll vote with the Republicans. I think we necessarily have to go with Austin Peterson to the Republican Party to stay alive. You could keep the Libertarian Party libertarian. It's not, and how is it dying when they doubled their vote amounts from 2012 to 2016?
Right. Well, here's what I was going to say. Like, before I actually really watched all of 40's video, and I watched Coffee's because it was much shorter, but I was thinking about that question. And if we just base it on attrition, that is the amount of people who voted, I have the stats right here. 2004, 397,000 people voted for Libertarian in the presidential election. 2008 was 523,000. 2012 was 1.2 million. In 2016, it's 4.5 million. So that's more than double what 2004, 2008, 2012 is. However, after watching 40 Ounces video, which 40 Ounce, that's a great video, by the way, well cited and sourced, I realized that what they're arguing is not necessarily the growth of the Libertarian Party, but that it is changing from an ideological standpoint, that the social justice warriors are using this whole Machiavelli principle, like these 3 courses, and they're essentially infiltrating it and destroying it from the inside out. My argument to that, though, is that you can make that same inference with every single party. I mean, the Republican Party did it with the Tea Party, and now the alt-right. We know that the GOP was against Obamacare, apparently, but now that they have power, they appear to be for socialized medicine. The Democrats are becoming more progressive, more socialism. So I don't necessarily think it's just the social justice warrior infiltration of the Libertarian Party it's going to destroy the Libertarian Party, because this is happening to every single party. And a new poll just came out that 71% of millennials want a third major political party. And we know that Generation Z is supposedly very conservative. So I guess my contention would be that I think we're actually going to see the Libertarian Party grow. The question is it evolving or is it devolving? And I think that's what we'll be mostly talking about today. 40, is that kind of what your contention was?
Yeah, I have looked at the numbers previously. I know the numbers generally because I was paying attention to the after election results. And you're absolutely right in saying that. My argument was essentially that the Libertarian Party is dying in principle more than it is in actual numbers. And the reason I think it's dying in principle is essentially because a lot of these top-tier libertarians, or leftitarians, as Maddodge likes to say, a lot of them are they're trying to sell out to whosever voter base seems weakest at the time. And this just so happened to be Hillary Clinton in this past election. This was the easiest group to siphon votes from. This was the easiest group to pander from, and this was the group with the weakest fundamental voter base due to the fact that they didn't particularly like their candidate. And hypothetically speaking, I would say the Libertarian Party, the Libertarian Party is growing at an exponential rate. There's no denying that. But my concern is, to what degree are these people just simply disaffected voters from a different party, looking at the Libertarian Party as a kind of momentary source of expression of angst, maybe?
Kind of like a throwaway, right? Like,
yeah, but
I can't vote for Democrat, I can't vote for Republican, but I need to vote because I feel it's my constitutional and civic duty, so here goes the Libertarian Party.
Well, no, let me give you some historical context, though. Look at the fall of the Whig Party and the rise of the Republican Party. Could the same thing be happening here, where the Libertarian Party grows out of both the Republicans and the Democrats, these voters that no longer want to be within these two parties? And if you want to talk about the leftitarians, have always been around. The Libertarian Party was founded in the 70s and always had gay marriage as an agenda to legalize. They've always been against the drug war, since that's what it spawned out of. When that stuff, they created the Libertarian Party in, I think, 77. So these lefty values were always there. But then there was Ron Paul, and he kind of changed that, I think. And do you think it's coming full circle back to how the party was founded?
Well, I think to add to that quickly is that, I mean, the Libertarian Party may have been founded in the 1970s, but the idea of libertarianism is probably the oldest political philosophy there is. I mean, John Locke, he was a classical liberal, and we know that the founding fathers used his material in his writings exponentially to draft the Constitution. So I think instead of like the Libertarian Party, I think the major political parties that are active in our country today, primarily the Democratic and Republican parties, I mean, they base a lot of their policies off of the libertarian philosophy. Ronald Reagan even said that, I think it was, the heart and soul of conservatism is libertarianism. And I think what we're seeing right now is this angst and this anger toward the establishment that a lot of these conservatives and these maybe alt-right, even the Tea Party members, they're going to start refraining from the Republican Party. I think they're going to digress back to their original roots, Libertarian Party. So Libertarian Party might change a little bit, but I think the principle, the founding, sentiment of it, which is individual liberty and freedom from government tyranny, I think that will live on.
Yeah,
I think on who the candidate is that each party's running.
Well,
Yeah.
and also the leadership within the party, because I'll tell you straight up, I will not start paying dues again to the Libertarian Party until they get rid of the chairman, Sarwick. I don't like him. I don't want him running the party. I want Nicholas Sarwick out of there. And I won't pay dues again until he's gone.
Yeah.
So there is a split. I am mad. I am taking Tom Woods' side on this shit.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree 100% with you, Pepper. I think that a lot of the Tea Party members are going to divert back to a kind of libertarian mindset, as opposed to the typical, the colloquial definition of a conservative, that kind of mindset. But I just want to clarify one quick thing. When I do say leftitarian, I don't mean to say pro-gay marriage or pro-marijuana, because the traditional sense of a libertarian is to just minimize the government as much as possible, a kind of minarchist view. Minimize the government as much as possible, get them out of people's lives, and lessen the degree to which the state can inhibit people's freedoms. But you get a lot of, quote-unquote leftitarians. You get a lot of people that think that in order to ensure liberty, we have to take even more money. They go the complete opposite. It's not taxation is theft. They go almost along the lines of taxation will lead to more freedom. There are people that are in favor of socialized medicine, but still somehow call themselves libertarians, for instance.
Well, I have a question, I guess, for 40 and Coffee here. I know both you in your videos, you kind of compared Gary Johnson with the Libertarian chairman, Nicholas Sarwick, and you kind of use the example of like his freak out during immigration. And I mean, when I saw that, I know 40, you acknowledged this in your video as well, he was basically just being political there, trying to siphon votes off from the Democrats. But I really don't. I mean, Coffee, I heard you mention how like open borders is not really libertarian philosophy, but that's one of the roots of libertarian philosophy, actually. Like the Ron Paul libertarians, the hard libertarians, classical liberals, they were not really for open borders, but they wanted definitely more immigration, because more immigration leads to lower costs and things of that nature. So I guess to kind of circle back here, my question to you guys: do you guys think that Gary Johnson is actually a libertarian or no?
I would say if you look at the last election, no. I voted for him in 2012 because I was cool with the the legalizing weed, which was basically like his frickin' platform at the time, and I couldn't stand Romney nor Obama, especially after Obamacare. But to see what happened after, in this last election for 2016, I'm sitting here scratching my head like, what the hell did I almost just do? Why would I want someone who is obviously uninformed, probably high every time he gets on a set, as a president?
Sorry, I know the question's to 40 also, but you do know that Thomas Jefferson and Washington and all them were drunk and high most of the time during and after the Revolution.
That's when the best shit posting happens, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know that. I would like a source for that as well.
I'll hit you up in Discord with a source.
All right.
I would like to see that just for lols, not so much the that's funny. But no, that's a good point about, what is libertarianism? Is it taking, for instance, just the immigration, just that one topic. Gary Johnson was obviously trying to bend the knee to social justice, trying to siphon off votes and look more politically correct and steal votes from the Democrats. But one of the weird things that this is also one of the weird things that the Libertarian Party has to kind of cope with. At this point, you have to ask yourself, well, what is liberty? You have to ask yourself, what is liberty, and what kind of liberty is each person fighting for? To some people, liberty isn't just... To some people, liberty in terms of immigration means closing down the borders. That way, our citizens have the liberty to go unmolested by illegal immigrants who might be criminals, or the peddlers of illegal substances, or whatever the case might be. They have the right to not be persecuted by immigrants coming into the country with their high crime and all this other stuff. But then again, this also means the liberty of free movement. So, and that's ultimately where the divide in the Libertarian Party comes from, I think, to certain odd degrees. It's kind of weird to voice it out loud, but...
Well, so the question becomes then, I mean, that's a pretty good, I think, explanation, but the question becomes, are you assuming then that this whole regressive and social justice infiltration is strong enough to actually destroy those founding principles? Do you think the Libertarian Party is going to change so much from this infiltration, which I agree with you, don't get me wrong, I 100% agree that the social justice warriors and regressives are infiltrating, not just Libertarian Party though, like every party, but do you think their infiltration is rampant enough to actually change the founding principles of libertarianism?
Well, that's a very good question. I mean, each party, to a degree, has to deal with its own kind of little insurgencies. You know, the Republicans have to deal with the neo-Republicans have to deal with the Tea Party members. The neoliberals have to deal with the actual socialists and communists that back them. The Libertarians, as it just so happens, they happen to have Gary Johnson. They happen to have Weld, who is a traditional conservative running under the Libertarian name. They happen to have Sarwalk, who, you know, and Gary Johnson and Nicholas Sarwalk both happen to have maybe not social justice kind of policies, but they happen to use the very same kind of language, and they happen to habitually capitulate to these people. They time and time again will try and pander to this one specific group because they know if they use the right language, that's easy votes.
Well, I have a question, right? Who's pushing for reform within the Libertarian Party? We've seen through, you know, in the more right-leaning, the more conservative-leaning of libertarians forming the Tea Party, they ended up becoming what is now the dominating, you know, and quickly rising a political narrative for today, which is, you know, the alt-light, alt-right kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to stick with, you know, mostly alt-light because we're trying to avoid all the, you know, the white nationalist stuff. But the alt-light is, you know, 8 years, you know, what a reform for people who consider themselves currently libertarian, leftitarian, what they could be in the next 8 years. You know, if they were to embrace reform instead of just trying to hold on to a party architecture that's not getting them anywhere. I mean, you can debate the numbers all you want, but this was a ridiculously polarizing election in the last sphere. And I can imagine many people, just like last time, who were uninformed, you know, not red-pilled, quote unquote, that were like, yeah, I'll just vote Libertarian Party because, you know, reasons.
Yeah, but
because I don't actually know what's going on.
Yeah, but Coffee, which extreme is worse? You have people like Daryl W. Perry who are pure anarchists. You have people like Adam Kokesh who want completely open borders. And, you know, you also have the Gary Johnsons. Which extreme is worse within the Libertarian Party? Do you want Daryl W. Perry as their next, you know, presidential candidate? Do you know who Daryl W. Perry is?
I don't know who any of them are because at the end of the day, I don't consider myself affiliated with either of the political parties. The closest thing I was, you know, during my initial political awakening was a Tea Partier because I wanted term limits. That was the only thing I wanted. I wanted to overturn everyone who was currently in the system and get them the fuck out, especially in Pennsylvania.
Well, here's the...
But...
Oh, sorry.
But we don't even have that yet. I think that's the ultimate goal here, at least on this right side. The left side, it still seems like it's kind of like pandering and trying to like make nice with everybody, which I'm, you know, not a huge fan of.
Well, just here's one extreme I would like to point out. So Daryl W. Perry ran for the Libertarian Party in 2016. He would like to completely eliminate Social Security. His contention is that we like grandmas. We would help pay for grandma. Okay, then you have Gary Johnson, who when it comes to Social Security, he would keep the safety net, maybe try and privatize it a little bit. So one is actually politically feasible, which is Gary Johnson's position, and the other is out in la land, which I agree with Daryl, really, philosophically, but that's never going to happen.
Your point about political feasibility is up in arms with our current president.
Okay, yeah, you got me there. Yeah, go ahead and moving along, Piper. Sorry, I wanted to ask that. Like, which extreme is good for the Libertarian Party, though?
Well,
the extreme anarchy?
I think it kind of brings up another point. Then, I mean, the way we're talking, it almost seems like the Libertarian Party is so broad that anything could really be in it, could be a part of it. I mean, like I've said earlier when I did my opening here a little bit, there are aspects of the progressives and liberals and conservatives that use libertarianism. Like, for instance, abortion would be, I mean, most libertarians, are a few that don't believe it, but most libertarians believe in pro-choice. That's something with the left. So, and libertarianism is one of the oldest, political philosophies. So it's almost like, is libertarianism dying strictly because it's so broad that they cannot have an actual set political platform? Or is it going to just maybe focus and on one subsect? For instance, I think Austin Peterson has 11 different types of libertarianism. Jason Brennan, who's a professor, he has it down to 3: classical liberals, neoclassical liberals, and hard libertarians, which are the ANCAPs. So I guess the question becomes, how broad is libertarianism? Is it possible for it to actually be a party, or is it more of an idea?
Well, that's one of the things that the Libertarian Party is having to deal with. Due to the fact that the Libertarian Party is so small, it's dealing with lots of these. It's in its most variable, it's in its most vulnerable stages at the moment. It has a little bit of power, and it's going to be a very obviously powerful figure in the future, especially in elections to come. But that's one of the weaknesses right now. If it's just the simple basic bitch libertarian who adheres to the kind of paleo-libertarianism, well, then you also have to compete with anarcho-capitalists. You have to compete with libertarian socialists. And traditionally, these are people whose political definitions and their political, basically the things they want are completely against the traditional definition of libertarianism. They're the antithesis, really. Traditionally, libertarianism is comprised of minarchists, but you're also having to deal with people who want to completely abolish the state and privatize everything, privatized militaries and all this other stuff. And you're also having to deal with complete socialists at this point. People who want, the nanny state, for instance.
The Libertarian Party, where socialists and anarchists meet.
Yeah.
Well, I have an idea. Let's privatize everything, and they could have their own socialist utopias. So they could hire their own little socialist military in Detroit and have at it. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, I don't know if complete privatization would actually work, though. I don't think ANCAP is feasible. That's just my opinion, though. I think there'd be too much. I mean, don't get me wrong. If people think that government is imperative to prevent monopolies, the truth is that if we actually had a free market, monopolies wouldn't exist. Because the reason why small businesses cannot actually get big enough to compete with monopolies is because of the heavy job regulations they got to do. They got a minimum wage they have to pay. They got a 39.6% tax rate. I mean, they just can't compete. So you get rid of all that, there'll be more competition with monopolies. But I digress.
Well, and I just want to point out, we're talking about, is the Libertarian Party dying? Even if the party dies, the ideals will live on. They always have. And also, if you look at what President Trump just did recently, I think it was a big win for libertarians. he freeing up of the national parks in Utah and selling off a lot of it.
Mhm.
I know a lot of the Green Party people are probably flipping out, but I'm golden with it. I live in the West, man. It's 80% federal land out here. I live in the Cascades. It's
Yeah.
around 90%. Okay, I'm good with this. Sell it off. Let us. You know what? There'd be no homeless people if you brought back homesteading. Just an idea. Go build your own cabin. You know.
Yeah.
But how do you, Piper Report, how do you feel about the freeing up of the national parks? Do you think that was a good move by the president? And was that libertarian?
Yeah, definitely libertarian. See, one of the fundamental principles of libertarianism, it's also the most ignorant in terms of people knowing about it, is the idea of private property. Private property is essential, and private property is anything. I mean, it's really wide. So, for instance, someone with a small business, that's private property. So, for instance, in the Supreme Court, they're hearing a case where a guy refused to decorate a cake for a gay couple, and he might actually get in trouble over it. Well, the libertarian philosophy says that that's his private property. That's his establishment. He can do what he wants. So I am all for that. I think if we would adopt the idea of private property, you would see things a lot better. And that's one aspect of libertarianism that people never talk about. And it's one of the most important ones.
Yeah, I'm really happy with Trump's move on this one. But I'll be publishing a video later tonight on it.
Nice.
So I spent all day doing that instead of preparing for this because I'm not a libertarian anyway.
Well, yeah, and sorry I digressed a little bit there, Piper.
Oh, that's fine.
You also, what about the infighting between Thomas Woods, a great libertarian thinker in my opinion, and the Mises Institute? And then you have Nicholas Sarwick and the Cato Institute on the other side. It is like the Libertarian Party is splitting, in my opinion, not necessarily dying.
40, I'm going to get you to answer that quick, but I just want to say before you do that, on 40's video, he basically depicted 3 examples that were brilliant with that. And that was the Sarwick incident, the Gary Johnson incident, and the Lawrence Southern being ostracized incident. So like I said, that was a really good video. I posted in the description. I give you props on it and citing. So, but anyways, have at it. I just wanted to say that.
What was the question again? I apologize.
Do you believe that the Libertarian Party is more or less splitting, not necessarily dying, because of this infighting between Tom Woods, the Mises Institute, Nicholas Sarwick, and the Cato Institute?
Yeah. Well, a split would be a best case scenario. I mean, Gary Johnson can take his open border socialists and, he can go somewhere else with them, would be the polite way of saying that. But, no, I definitely think that there is a massive split. You definitely did see that. Most people probably didn't watch it, obviously, but the example I gave regarding Lawrence Southern and the Libertarian Party in Canada, actually, was that essentially these leftitarians that want to socialize everything and that are into the politically correct language, they had co-opted the party. And even to the point where these people were literally in the upper echelons of the party. And funny enough, they were actually caught stealing and siphoning funds off for their own personal use. And eventually they got kicked out through these means. Caught siphoning money, they were completely rejected by the party, roundly. But nevertheless, this co-opting, the Libertarian Party is prone to this, and it is going to lead to splits. And these people who do split off, they're most likely going to become Democrats, if I had to guess. They're just going to become, they're what we might call the business Democrats. They're still into like maybe the politically correct language. It's just maybe they're pro-gun to a degree, or they're a little more pro-business than the usual socialist.
Well, and more specifically, so there's the Libertarian Party of Oregon, and then another group claimed to be the Libertarian Party of Oregon, and there's actually a lawsuit going on who the real Libertarian Party of Oregon is. It's insanity right now. Like,
Yeah.
they get like 4 million votes, and suddenly let's just rip it all to shreds, guys. Let's just pack it up.
Yeah.
I thought that was something important that I brought up in my Libertarian Party is Dead video. Is that
Yeah.
anytime you get someone who has real potential for political power, they go within either the Democratic or Republican framework. They don't try to run as Libertarian.
But then we've had an influx of new libertarians. I mean, you had John McAfee. Well, yeah, he's a little crazy. Maybe he killed somebody.
Yeah, but he didn't get anywhere.
Well, I guess coffee with that though. I mean, Gary Johnson, like his positions 2016, I mean, they're pretty on for libertarian. He was against death penalty, wanted to privatize prisons, he wanted to remove all income taxes, corporate tax. I mean, he wanted to end the war on drugs, gold standards. So he really did align with the libertarian philosophy.
Yeah, also by looking like a weirdo.
Yeah, he was a creeper. That's the thing. It just kind of irritates me because if they actually did, nominate Austin Peterson, Austin Peterson wouldn't have won. But instead of getting 4.5 million votes like they did, he probably would have got to 15 million. I really do believe that.
No, that's all speculation. And at this point, some of the things Gary Johnson wanted were really tone deaf with the undercurrent in the political shift that we saw. We don't want open borders because of, we have a problem with joblessness in this country. We have a problem with Europe getting attacked every day this summer, by migrants, which, open borders is, going to open us up wide to that kind of stuff. I think that's maybe my one major contention with the Gary Johnson-esque Libertarian Party of this last cycle, was that it was just so tone deaf. And he even demonstrated several times that he wasn't a serious candidate because he didn't understand the issues and he acted like a buffoon.
And he didn't know where Aleppo was.
I was trying to avoid saying that. But yeah.
Let that one die. Let it die.
I'm not going to let that die. I'm not going to let that die. Oh, I'll take that to the grave with me.
It's going to be on your tombstone.
That's awesome.
My dying words are going to be, "Where is Aleppo?" Oh, God. I can't believe that.
Well, it's funny, too. They had Bill Weld, be the VP or the, vice president candidate for Gary Johnson. It's like, why? I mean, Bill Weld looks like it's a stick up his ass, and it just... I don't know what they were thinking, but then again, I don't know what they were thinking with nominating Gary Johnson. So
I learned my lesson in 2012, right? And I kind of hate to say this because it's going to stir something up, but I think that a vote for a libertarian is a waste of a vote. And what you really need to do is make sure that you're active enough within your party, Democrat or Republican, to be able to put forward candidates that you can actually get behind instead of just letting everyone else do it for you.
I hate that argument. That you're throwing your vote away argument. I hate it.
This is what I do, though. It boils down to laziness among people. And if you don't know what's going on, you kind of like skim the surface issues. And then you're like, okay, well, I don't like Trump because he grabs pussies. I don't like Hillary because she's corrupt AF. So I'm gonna vote Gary Johnson. Like it just seems lazy to me, and it seems like a fundamental misunderstanding of the political ideas and actually what our country was founded on, which was everybody who was allowed to vote at the time kind of actually knew what was going on. We don't see that today.
I think I don't know. I think it may be conflating, though, the two. For instance, I agree that, I mean, if they vote libertarian just because they hate their main two candidates, that I guess maybe could consider a wasted vote. But in terms of voting for libertarian candidates a wasted vote, I have to disagree with that because no political party just all of a sudden stops, crystallizes out of nowhere and begins. I hate this kind of poor example to give, but the Nazi Party, I mean, they did 3 elections, I think, before they actually gained prominence, and I believe the Whigs were.
Yeah, but that was what, within how many years? We had the Libertarian Party for 45 years now.
Yeah, but they've been pretty pretty dead until the most like last 10 years here. And now we're starting to see the exponential growth. Like from 2012, 2016, there's a lot. And I think if we get a better candidate up there, you're going to see it even more.
We're project. See, this is something that kind of bothers me with projections. We see a growth compared to like the last time, and we assume that it's going to continue upward. I don't think that the next election is going to be great for the Libertarian Party.
Yeah, I I actually kind of agree with that. There's no speculating at this point is futile. There are too many variables. Gary Johnson could have another fake heart attack on stage. He could embarrass himself even further, which I didn't know was possible, but he continues to do so. So if Gary Johnson remains the kind of mainstream headliner candidate for the Libertarian Party, I think it's going nowhere and very fast. The Libertarian Party, that is. But if you just switch it up and get someone reasonable up there who leaves all the semantics and actually is able to put, don't get me wrong, I love a trolley candidate every now and then, but if you are unable to have just serious moments when it is absolutely required of you, then you will do well, I promise you. But Gary Johnson, sometimes he just doesn't meet those quotas.
You know who I would nominate? Penn Jillette. Seriously, I think.
Honestly, fuck it. Sure.
No. Seriously, let's look at this big picture. Penn Jillette was on Celebrity Apprentice, right?
Yeah.
So then we really turned politics into a reality show. You have Donald Trump versus Penn Jillette.
Dude, honestly, I unironically would actually probably be okay with that.
Have you guys seen the video of John McAfee? Like he's doing like for president commercial, and he's like snorting coke through like a twisty straw, and a bunch of like strippers are next to him and stuff. Have you guys see that? Oh, I should find the link, and that's great.
Oh yeah, it's great. McAfee is a badass.
I'm gonna post the link in the chat here once I get it. But yeah, it's great. It's funny. Anyways.
But no, in all seriousness, Austin Peterson was my choice, really, on this last convention when I was watching the debates. Him or Feldman, but Feldman actually died shortly after the convention, so he probably wouldn't have been the best choice.
Here's the problem, right? If individual states can't even get, a single Libertarian Party to put forward a candidate, how are we going to get a national candidate for presidential nominee within the Libertarian Party that's going to be able to actually do anything?
Oh, I'm actually really glad you said that, because I was going to say something earlier, but I totally forgot. No, that's a good point. We absolutely have to, as libertarians, whoever considers himself a libertarian, you have to make it a point to show up for every single local election. You have to watch the town hall nearest to you with anticipation to rush to the polls to vote for libertarians, because libertarians, even if actually in this past election cycle, state elections and everything like that for congressmen, libertarians actually did not poll that well. They polled worse than anticipated, and that's post general election. So that really does show you the damage that Gary Johnson did with his idiocracy. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but that recent election they had in Pennsylvania, actually, Coffee, a lot of libertarians ended up on the boards and stuff in Philly, or outside of Philadelphia in the townships. So the Libertarian Party over there is actually doing good.
Well, that's true, but I mean, also it was, I can't remember the states exactly, but I think it was Massachusetts, and there was one other state, Massachusetts. They didn't even break double digits, and they were anticipated to break double digits due to rising popularity of the Libertarian Party and just recent growth trends, but they weren't able to do it.
I don't think it demonstrates confidence in the Libertarian Party, though. I think it demonstrates a desire to remove incumbents. And I consciously did this for local people running for Pennsylvania, during the last election. I consciously went through the Libertarian and Green Party candidates and said, well, who can I vote for that is not an incumbent and who actually has good ideas. We had one guy from like the Green Party here who wanted to completely eliminate the Department of Treasury in Pennsylvania.
Huh.
Now, I didn't vote for him because he was kind of a loony, but you know, it's ideas like that that you kind of have to like weigh a little bit and see what works best for your state.
I would, yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I actually thought about running for public office in my state, so I was looking at the different political parties. You know, I looked at Republican, then I searched for Libertarian, and the Libertarian Party, there was basically no outreach. It said, tell us you're running and we'll make flyers for you. I mean, there's no, no ground game. There's no, I would agree with you in that, Coffee. I mean, if they definitely want to, I guess, get more involved nationally, they have to get involved locally, and they have to do definitely reform on that to start getting more involved locally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're going to have to set up an Ask Me Anything panel on the street somewhere.
That's the only way you rise above the currently entrenched parties is the ground game. Because you say Democrat or Republican, people already know. They already have preconceived notions about what they mean. You get out there and you say Libertarian, people don't know what you're talking about, or they think you're goofy. You know, you get out there, you say,
they think of Gary Johnson right away, which is a horrible image to have as the front man.
Yeah, or you say you're Green Party, and they're, you know, I talked to this Green Party guy on campus, and he was kind of a loon, but I understood what he was going for. You know, if he ever votes for or runs for mayor, you know, I might even give him a shot because he took the time to hang around and talk to people and engage them and not prejudge people. You have to have the ground game, especially in like a city, especially in like maybe rural areas where people don't have, you know, as ready access to internet as I might, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get out there, do the town halls and everything, because there's no way people are going to vote for your party out of the blue just because you're whatever party, because they do that for the other ones.
I think, though, that nowadays people are getting a more of a predisposition to go to third parties. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, 71% of millennials want a third major political party. I mean, I would probably guess that is mostly probably progressive, you know, the Bernie fraction, but I'm sure a lot of them too, though, either alt-right or libertarianism in general. So I think we're going to see more of that, this abdication away from the establishment parties.
Maybe. I mean, look at Europe. Most of the countries there have way more than two parties. You know, you have, what was it?
Labor, conservative, liberal.
You know, Britain first.
Yeah.
I think that it would be good for our country, but like I said in the closing part of my videos, unfortunately, America is like a football country. You know, you're rooting for one team or the other. You know, there's not 3 teams in a football game. There's not 4 or 5 teams in a football game.
Mm-hmm.
We are a largely uneducated populace when it comes to politics and the goings on in our government and what things mean. And it's really unfortunate, but in this situation, you're stuck with the 2-party system. That's just the way it is.
I guess to expand on this, I want to ask you guys, all you guys, do you think the rise of a third party would be beneficial, or would it be bad for the country in general?
I would be concerned about under what situation that arises. Does the GOP, right? If we look at the current political climate, does the GOP continue to trend left to where the Democratic and Republican establishments are virtually indistinguishable, which arguably they might even be, if it weren't for the alt-right insurgency? Then, only then, would you have maybe a third party that is actually different. And I don't think it's going to rise under the Libertarian moniker because it's already got a name for itself.
I happen to like political deadlock. I happen to think that's a good thing. So a third party, no matter what party, would be amazing. So we didn't have this 2 giant blocks who pretty much think the same. Okay, Republicans and Democrats, they're pretty close if you look at the spectrum of political beliefs.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I would love a third, a fourth, a fifth party. I would love to be more like, I think the UK has multiple parties, and I know Germany does, right? So,
well, even France.
Yeah. I would love that situation here in the U.S. because that would cause more what? Political deadlock. It would slow down new laws. Which would slow down the government imposition upon our liberties. That would be great for everybody.
You wouldn't have the vice president doing a tiebreaker every other day like we're seeing.
Yeah.
Which would kind of be nice.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, the vice president really shouldn't do anything besides sit there and eat hamburgers and listen to people argue. That's really his job.
I would totally do that job.
So what do you think, 40?
No, I actually totally agree with Coffee and Maddodge. Political deadlock is good because it stops them it stops the influx of just these outrageous regulations and these stupid laws, these petty laws that keep being implemented. You know, you can't pick your nose on Wednesday at 6 in the morning or whatever the case might be when it comes to certain federal and local laws.
But I love picking my nose at 6 a.m. on a Thursday.
Well, you can't do that if can't do that if you vote Libertarian. Gosh, but at the same time, I kind of agree with Coffee. There is this two-party dichotomy that has always been inherent to the United States. So to break that up I think that would put people in a very odd social position because we are not used to that. We're used to rooting for one team or the other. But the way it's been going so far, and the political trend, historically speaking, in the United States, it's just going to be co-opting after co-opting after co-opting. You're just going to have to you're going to have to either prop up or repress these insurgencies that are happening within each party, according to whatever your beliefs are. And, you know, they vary per generation, so we'll just have to see.
I do think that we are actually seeing that now, though. For instance, I know Dianne Feinstein, she was actually being booed at one of her rallies, and she's been the senator of California for like 30 some years. So you are definitely, you're definitely seeing a lot of angst by people. And I know I predicted this last year or maybe 2 years ago. I think the Democratic Party is going to be branching off soon into the Democratic centralists and the progressive wing. And I think we're seeing that every day. And the question becomes, though, is the progressive party that is, kind of being orchestrated now, basically the Bernie supporters and things of that nature, are they going to be kind of like a Teddy Roosevelt situation? Will be prominent for a few years and then just subside? Or are they actually going to be, a prominent and they're going to be the next major political party?
Because they're a single candidate type party, like the Bull Moose Party.
Yeah.
What you're referring to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and there's this weird, and I kind of hate it, to be honest, but there's this weird notion that the United States should strive to be like Europe. And especially among the populace, this goes in a kind of political sense. People want more than just two parties, but they're not willing to vote outside the dichotomy. Mm. And so, I don't know, that's always just, that's really strange to me. Sorry, that was just something I thought of.
No, it's good you brought that up, because you can, at the end of the day, at the end of the campaign, and it's election day, when you go to the polls, who are you entrusting the future of your local or state or national government to? People that the evil that you know, or the evil you don't know.
Yeah.
Yes, someone. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say real quick, I think that is really strange. You look at all the polls, people do the political compass test. I've done it a couple times too, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know I was a libertarian," and then they still go back home and, well, I live in Oregon. We have mail-in ballots, so we literally vote from home. So they still go home and they fill out, oh, Hillary Clinton, or, for the majority of Oregon, the big city Oregon areas anyway. It's really...
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to wrap up. If it's really interesting, if you look at the map, like the political map, where who voted for who in Oregon, it's all red in the Cascades in Eastern Oregon, and it's all blue in Lane County, which is like Eugene and Springfield, and Portland. That's it. And then the state votes Democrat every 4 years. It's insane.
I know.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I know, like I took like 3 of those political compass tests, and I mean, I went from constitutionalist to libertarian to Republican. So I'm kind of curious on how they, on what aggregate they use to that. But BB Hammer in the chat mentioned something that reminded me of something. She wrote that over 14 million people have left the Dems. 42% of registered Dems didn't even bother to vote last year in November. I remember doing a video a while back that the Democratic Party has lost 1,000 seats since 2010. In the last 6 years, 1,000 seats in Congress, you know, Senate and governorships and things of that nature. So I do think that the Democratic Party will die before the Republican Party, but I don't know if it's actually going to die or if it's just going to convert itself to more of a progressive wing.
That would be fine if they did it sane. Like, you can't have this identity politics thing is unsustainable. Having a major previous presidential candidate sitting there on air saying, you must refer to them as undocumented migrants instead of illegal aliens, which is what they are, you know, is vehemently insisting that you use the political correct term. Like, that is not a good look for either the Libertarian nor the Democratic Party if they really want to be viable in the future. Because if we're going off of the fact, if we're going off of the idea that Generation Z is going to be more conservative, they're going to have to use our words now because they've lost that game. But they don't want to do that because they're not grounded in reality.
Well, no, and I think it's, I don't think the Democratic Party ever does a transition like that sanely. They were the party of Jim Crow. Now they're the party of segregation or sanctuary cities. So, you know, they do a 180. That's kind of how they do it.
Right.
Well, they just want that cheap labor.
Well, I don't know. I think it was a pretty good conversation here. You guys got anything else you want to talk about?
Not really.
Yeah, I do. I do.
Your roads?
I have a question real quick. Moving the embassy to Jerusalem, good move or bad? I know it has nothing to do with the libertarian thing, but you said if we had anything else. I'm just curious what your thought on that, Piper, is. What was that?
I confess, I didn't really do much research into it. I watched Stick's video on it, but I kind of would have to agree with Sticks on it. I don't really see the point. I don't see how you're going to achieve confluence between Israel and Palestine when you're basically pissing off Hamas and Hezbollah and, I mean, everyone in Palestine. So I don't know. I think it might cause more damage than good. But like I said, I've really looked into it that much.
I think Styx's video was stupid on the issue. He's like,
yeah,
you're going to split Jerusalem to an Israel side and a Palestine side? Come on. Come on. No, Jerusalem has been claimed by the Jews. And if we move our embassy there, it's Trump basically putting his dick out on the table and saying, look, you come any closer to this, we're gonna cut your hand off.
Don't you touch his dick.
I think it was it was a very a move full of bravado for him to say that.
Wait a minute.
So you agree with it? So you agree with it, Coffee?
I don't care either way. All I'm saying is that he's going out there and saying he's pushing forward the conservative we must protect Jerusalem thing. You know, we must protect the Jews by saying, look, if you attack Jerusalem, there's going to be a consequence for this.
Well, check it out though. This came from '95, and that was right there in the Clinton years. So they've been putting this off for decades. I say, you know, if Congress passed it, Congress is the ones that did this, not Trump. So move the embassy. It's been like they passed this in '95, people. Mm-hmm. That was forever ago. I was 11.
You know what's funny is that Congress passed a border wall in 2006, and Biden and Obama and Hillary all voted yes on it.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
You know, to be honest, I just think that personally, I don't like meddling in other people's affairs. I would much rather just have let the grand chessboard run its course. You know, this is ultimately a game of geopolitics, and you know, this is a game of attrition for both sides. So, in my opinion, whoever takes control, and we deal with whoever's in control. Empires rise and fall. It's the natural cycle of human civilization. So, but honestly, I just don't care. I'll deal with whoever's in charge.
I'm just not a fan of Israel piggybacking off the U.S. all the time. They actually have a law where if you actually call your state senator, I mean your U.S. senator, and ask who has dual citizenship in Congress, they won't tell you at all.
Yeah.
I mean, they are hiding that, you know. And like, we give Israel $3.5 billion a year in defense spending. Well, a lot of money. It seems kind of small now in the grand scheme of things, but it really isn't. That's actually a lot of money that we could use for ourselves.
Yeah. Plus, trying to pass a law that if you what was the thing about embargoing or boycotting Jewish businesses?
Oh yes, yeah. You can't boycott Jewish businesses or something. If you're caught to have any bias, you can literally go to prison. Yeah.
Jeez, that's horrible.
I tell you what, Piper. If you ever want to do this again, you should do it on the JQ.
Oh, God.
Nobody's doing it. I'm just saying.
On the what?
The Jewish question.
Yeah.
Oh. Let's see what happens. Yeah.
Calm down. Stop drinking that maple whiskey, buddy.
Dude, it's good.
That does sound good, actually.
No, my heart weeps for the Libertarian Party. I know a lot of people that are in it, but at the same time, I don't see it coming back.
I guess me personally, I mean, I guess I disagree with you, Coffee. I don't think it's dead. I do think it may be devolving, though, but I don't know. I'm not sure where it's going to go, but I really don't think it's dying. But I think it might just transform into something that we may not like, and that's kind of scary. But I think it'll continue to grow in terms of attrition. 40, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I think the traditional libertarian principles are dying within the party. If you want to talk about just the namesake of the Libertarian Party, I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon, because there are super PACs that need funding, and you know, these typical political jargons and whatnot. But I don't think it's dying in terms of numbers. I think it's going to swell soon, especially if Trump runs for re-election. There's going to be enormous amounts of controversy, and this is going to drive even more people to look at Gary Johnson or you know, whoever is heading the Libertarian Party at this time. It's going to force people to keep looking for other options. So I don't think it's going to die, but I do think the traditional libertarian principles are dying as more and more people from different political spectrums try and claim their stake of the Libertarian Party, a kind of homesteading, if you will, of this new up-and-coming political party.
All right, Maddodge.
I think the Libertarian Party might split, and there might be a lot more people jumping over to the Republican Party, like Austin Peterson did. And I would even argue Rand Paul is a Libertarian. He's just in the wrong party.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah, but that's an argument for another day. It sounds like you're wrapping this up, so thank you for having me on. And anybody who hasn't subscribed to me, go check out Maddodge Productions, please. And once again, Piper, thanks.
Yeah, and check out 40 Ounce and CoffeeWithComment. All their channel links are in the description. And yeah, I guess it was fun. We'll have to do this again sometime.
Thanks, Piper.
I love that I started so much shit. I'm really proud of myself. I just
yeah, right. All right, later.